Good afternoon to all. On behalf of Indira Gandhi National Open University, Regional Center, Bangalore, heartily welcome the dignitaries, Professor Malati Mathur, Director, School of Foreign Languages, and my colleagues of regional centers, learner support centers, learners, and other invitees to this webinar on career opportunities in foreign languages. We are also thankful to our beloved director, Dr. UC Pandey, Director of Regional Service Division, IGNOU New Delhi, who is always encouraging us to conduct these events and meetings for the welfare of the society and learners. In general, language learning helps to develop strong intellectual skills such as a better concept formation, mental flexibility, multitasking, listening skills, and problem solving, etc. So, the learning of the foreign language will enhance both the intellectual skills and employability skills. Hence, today webinar is arranged to create awareness of career opportunities of foreign languages. I'm also glad to share that IGNOU is offering 3 master degree programs, 1 diploma program, and 8 certificate programs in foreign languages. And today our expert and research person is Professor Malati Mathur, a Director of School of Foreign Languages and former Director of School of Humanities. Professor Malati Mathur is a professor of English and has a doctorate in Australian literature. She has taught language and literature and guided research for over 3 decades. She is a creative writer and translator who writes and translates in and between Tamil, Hindi, and English with the 3 British Council Katha Awards for translation from Tamil and Hindi into English. Her areas of interest include women writing, comparative literature, and Indian writing in English. Professor Malati has published extensively, held workshops, and made presentations in India and abroad. Madam, it is a privilege to have you as a resource person for today's webinar, and I wish that our event will fulfill the requirements of the webinars. Now, may I request Professor Malati Madam to kindly deliver the keynote address, please.
Thank you so much, Srimati Radha. And my apologies to everyone for changing the time at the very last minute. There were certain commitments that I just could not avoid, and I wanted to be here. And it was so kind of Radha to indulge me and to invite me and to put up with the change of time and everything. So thank you so much, and thank you so much for inviting me. Well, it was very kind of you to introduce me as an expert. I I do not consider myself an expert at all, but the thing is that I know a few languages, and I consider that languages are extremely important. So, for a variety of reasons. So, because today we are focusing mainly on career opportunities. So, before we talk about the materialistic prospects of learning foreign languages, I would like to go into the cognitive and the psychological aspects as well. Because when you learn a new language, what happens to your brain is that there are certain areas of your brain which get activated. And I always keep saying that if you juggle between languages, it is like doing mental gym. It is like mental gymnastics. It's a mental exercise, because otherwise you keep doing the same things over and over again. But then when you shift to another language, there are certain things that you need to change in your approach, in how you think, in how you conceptualize, how you articulate, how you express. So it is extremely good for your brain. And it also helps you to multitask, Now, in the 21st century, multitasking is a term that has is so much in vogue. So many people are talking about multitasking all the time. That is a skill that most uh, employers are looking for. So they are not looking for people who can just do one thing at one time. They are looking at people who can manage a number of things all at the same time, with equal amounts of focus. So I think by learning a foreign language, which takes you out of your comfort zone, and then because you are trying to shift from this language to that language to that language, what is happening is you're multitasking. So that skill is transferred into your other tasks as well. So I think that that is one of the basic things that learning a foreign language does for you, and it is directly related to your career prospects as well. Because if you are able to multitask, if you are able to switch between this and that with equal skill, with equal focus, then that is one of the most desirable skills that an employer looks for. Now, when you learn a foreign language, I understand that a lot of people learn a foreign language just to just because they are interested. There are lots of people who are retired or who are working in somewhere, but they've always wanted to learn a foreign language like French or Spanish or German. So they just enroll, or they just try to increase their language proficiency. But when young students enroll in these programs, you cannot get away from the fact that they need to also to be employable, that they need to be able to bank upon this degree, this skill, to get ahead or to even get a foothold into the job market. So, why should I learn a foreign language? If I am thinking of myself, what is the kind of thing that I can expect if I have some kind of a degree in a foreign language? Now, we keep hearing this all the time that this is the era of globalization. This is a global village. The world has transformed into a global village. So it may sound like a cliche. It sounds like a very stale phrase, but it is the truth. It is, we are becoming a global village, especially because we are now so technology driven. Now, look, I am sitting here in Delhi, in the IGNU headquarters. Radha is in Bangalore, and there are so many of you who have joined from so many different areas, different cities, and so we're all coming together as one group. And this is what is happening with the world as such. I remember when I was director, School of Humanities, and the lockdown happened, and I organized a webinar to do with in which I had four Australian academics, and they were all from Australia, but we managed to have a wonderful seminar, a webinar, which might not have been possible otherwise, because inviting them here and giving them airfares, putting them up here, it would have entailed so much of expense for the university. So we are coming together in ways that the world has not seen before. We have not been able to get together, to bring people together in ways that we had not even imagined before. So I keep saying that COVID was a tragedy in so many ways. But then, like they say, there is always a silver lining to every cloud. So I think one of the silver linings was how tech savvy we've become, how much we are able to harness technology to come together and to be able to serve our common aims, our common goals. So it is a global village, something that we cannot get away from. And because of that, there are a number of opportunities uh, for a career as a translator. That is, I think, one of the most obvious things that comes to mind. So, being a translator and following upon it is being an interpreter. Now, being a translator is when you are actually sitting down in your house and maybe you're translating a book or a poem or even a user's manual, for example, because now we have so many foreign companies which have come into the market, which have launched their products in India, and which have come from a foreign country. So they have user manuals which they need to be translated. So you can bank upon that and be a translator. And this is writing down what is there in a foreign language into English, or vice versa. But when you are an interpreter, you are personally present there. And again, for example, we are now holding the G20 summit, and there are a number of foreign delegations which have come to India to participate in this, and they all, everybody is not proficient in English. Even if they are, they a lot of times they prefer to speak in their own language because they want to project their own language and culture. So at such, especially at such events, an interpreter is of prime importance. And let me tell you, interpreters are paid very handsomely. And I remember even in our own university in IGNU, just a few months ago, we had a delegation from a different country, and we there was a minister with his whole delegation, and we needed people to translate from French to English. So we were in this very happy position where we had a faculty and a consultant in French. So we were able to quickly catch hold of them and say, please, please be here and please be the bridge between this delegation which is visiting our university and the university itself. So being an interpreter is an extremely important job, because you cannot afford to misinterpret. You need to be very proficient, you need to be very clear in in your understanding of what has been said, and very clear in your expression in the other language. And as I said earlier, it is a very well paying job. So a translator and an interpreter, these are two very very obvious career choices after learning a foreign language. Now, I did mention that we have so many foreign companies which have launched their products. So, you have a wonderful career in international sales marketing. That is something that is, when you have an MNC in India, they are also looking for people who will sell their products not only in India but also in a foreign market. So you can bank upon your knowledge of that particular language to promote sales of a particular product. And of course, if you are someone who is interested in academics, there will always be jobs as teachers, as lecturers, as consultants, as faculty, always, because most universities in India have very robust departments of foreign languages all over India, and they are always looking for people. If there is no faculty position available, they do look for consultants on a temporary basis. So while you are thinking of what you want to do, while you have applied for other jobs, there is always the possibility that you can join a university somewhere or a school and teach that language. And let me tell you, when you teach a language, you become more proficient in the language yourself, because you are thinking about how to make it simple, how to make your students understand, how to make your students learn. So, in that process, you yourself learn a lot. So, even if you've just maybe done a degree, in the process of teaching, you learn so much more yourself, and your language skills become so much more stronger. What about the field of tourism? It's an excellent field for foreign languages. You can be a hotel manager, you can be somewhere anywhere in hospitality, you can be in ticketing, sales, you can arrange foreign trips, and related to that is being a tourist guide. You can, be with groups who need the interpretation, so that they are able to understand the culture, the country better. And I have myself seen on my travels that, especially in India, when there is, for instance, a foreign group, an entire bus that is traveling and visiting some heritage places in India, there is always someone who is with them, and they are again paid very, very well. And if they do a good job, apart from the fees that they charge, the tourists themselves give them, they because they are so grateful that they got that wonderful experience in which they have learned so much, they give them, on their own, they give them a lot of money as well. So that is one thing. The hospitality industry, tourism, that is again a very, very strong area of employability. And related to that again is to be a flight attendant, right? In the aviation industry, you can be a flight attendant, you can be at the counter where you can help foreign nationals to travel. So, and I did mention the linguistic tour guides. Now there are also a lot of opportunities for jobs in embassies. That, of course, is rather restricted, because you don't have embassies in all the cities. So, but still, people who can shift to the metros where you have the high commissions, where you have the embassies, there are always a lot of openings there. So, an embassy would be an ideal place to be, and to, again, to increase your own knowledge of the language and the culture. Now, if along with your degree in a foreign language, if you would like to, say, enroll in a degree for journalism, then your opportunities really, really open up, because you can go in, for a career as an international correspondent. So you can go to a country of which you know the language, you can interact with the locals there, you can, get wonderful news stories, you can get authentic sources of information which may not be available to everyone else, and you can report back to your home country, and you would be giving such valuable news. And these are the kind of news items that can win you a Pulitzer Prize, in fact. So these are the kind of things that, because you, with your inside knowledge of that language and culture, would be able to make friends more easily, would be able to make people trust you more easily. Because if someone comes and talks to you in your own language, I think you open up faster, you are more inclined to trust them with your stories. So that again would be an added advantage. So it can be combined together, maybe a certificate or a diploma in a foreign language with a degree in journalism can lead you into the field of international, as an international correspondent. You can, I was talking about international sales marketing. Now there are openings as brand specialists. So you can always look it up on Google, see what a brand specialist does, and how your knowledge of a foreign language will be an advantage to you. And another very interesting area, I think, and especially for people who are adventurous, they that would be in the field where you act as people who gather information, like intelligence operatives. So as part of a government agency, so it is not really being a spy. Nobody is telling you to be a James Bond. But if, with your knowledge of that foreign language, if as a government representative you are posted in that particular country, again, because of your insider knowledge of the language and culture, you would be able to give such authentic reports, you would be able to give such authentic information, back to the government, which in turn will help in so many ways. With our trade, with our intelligence, with uh, with our military strategy, with our foreign external affairs strategy. There are so many ways in which that can be utilized, that kind of an information. And related to that is you can even aspire to have jobs in international agencies, like, for instance, the UN or the WHO, international agencies where the knowledge of a foreign language is an asset, and where they actually look for candidates who have these kind of linguistic skills, where it is not just their mother tongue or English, but an added language. Because as international agencies, you will be interacting with a number of foreign nationals at all levels, and that is something that is greatly to be valued. Now, again, to do with foreign companies and MNCs coming into India, they always need human resource managers. They need recruiters. They need people who can bring in good people to work for them. So you will be the bridge between the employer and the people who can be employed. So you are somebody who is recruiting people, and that is a key position. That is a powerful position, because you know this language and you know this language, and you are the person who is communicating between both, and you are the person who is actually choosing who to place in the organization, which I'm sure you understand is quite an important position to be in. So you can be a recruiter, of employees. What about people who have an aptitude for study or for research? I know a lot of people who would like to take up some kind of a field study. Yes, like, for instance, I was on a committee where there were people who wanted to do a project, a study on the on one of the tribes in Ladakh. So the first thing we asked them was, do you know their language? How do you plan to go there, be with that particular community, learn about their customs and their beliefs and all of that, their way of life, their stories? How do you think you will do that if you do not know their language? So, we come across every day, we come across a number of research studies, anthropological research studies, which study some community which the world has forgotten. There are people who have gone and lived with the certain communities in the Amazon rainforests, who still live in a very, very old way of life, and they do not write, and they have their oral traditions. The way they live, their kind of dwellings, their kind of houses, it is also different. The kind of customs that they follow, the kind of the food habits that they have, all of that is so different. And they cannot communicate in a language that we all know. So if I wish to make a study of that community, the first thing I need to know is their language. So, or if I need to make a comparative study and say, if like, for instance, if I want to say the status of uh, maybe women, or the status of children in a particular economic strata in India, and a particular economic strata in France, maybe,
ಹೆಣ್ಕಮ್ಮವ್ರ ಹತ್ರ ಮಾತಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು
unless I
ಏನಂತ
know
ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ.
that language, I would not be able to gather sufficient data. I
ಮ್ಯೂಟೇ
would
ಇದೆ,
not be able to get authentic
ನಮ್ದು ಮ್ಯೂಟಲ್ಲೇ
information.
ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತದೆ.
Can I request you to mute your mics, please? If anybody has their mic on. Thank you. So, people who are interested in academics, They can become teachers, lecturers, consultants, academic consultants, research associates, and at the same time, if they have some kind of an aptitude for research, for investigating certain languages and communities, like for instance, a lot of people like to investigate or talk about language families or the origins of certain languages, certain dialects. So there, your knowledge of that particular language would come in so useful, and it might actually help you to do something path breaking, something that nobody has done before. So that again is one of the advantages of knowing a foreign language. Nowadays, I was just talking about the kind of technology that the tech explosion that we are experiencing now, and we are all so much on connected through social media. So there is so much out there on YouTube as bloggers. There are travel bloggers, there are food bloggers, there are people who are talking about their, just their life experiences, and they are talking about. Some people are actually collecting recipes, old recipes from their grandmothers, great grandmothers' times. Some people are collecting customs. They're talking about customs which they had earlier, which are slowly disappearing. So it's a kind of a documentation. So a lot of people are now blogging, and they are earning money out of it. A lot of people are making YouTube videos, again earning money out of it. So this kind of an avenue that we have, especially if it is related to a foreign language, and especially I keep emphasizing this whenever I talk to students. We as Indians are in a very enviable position, because most of us know at least two languages, at least, if not three or four. A lot of us are trilingual. Uh, People in the from the south of India, for instance, they may know Telugu and English and Hindi. So there are three languages that they already know. So our brains are already wired to to grasp a new language, and we are comparativists. I think it's in our DNA. So, if we do a comparative study between customs, between food habits, between languages, or literatures, so I think this knowledge of our own languages and this foreign language, it places us in an ideal position to make some really valuable comparative studies, depending on your area of interest. For instance, you can even make a comparative study. You can start a blog on films. You can talk about how families are projected or shown in maybe German films, and see how they are shown in Indian films. So things like that, they are so interesting, and your imagination is the limit. There is absolutely no limit to what you can study and what you can talk about. So, and there are people who have this flair for writing, for making things interesting. So, as a blogger, you can pick up any kind of you can be a tourist blogger, for instance, a travel blogger, and you can bring in aspects that other people don't know, and which people would like to know, because it might just be an interest, and it might also be that they want to travel to that country. So these are the kind of things that they would like to know, the little things. So that is one area that is you know that a lot of people might be interested in. What about trainers? Like I was talking about language. Sorry, I was talking about companies, MNCs, and things like that. So there are people who go and train employees in that particular language. So corporate trainers are greatly in demand. and they are also paid extremely well. So, as language corporate trainers, for let me just give you an example. You have a number of Korean companies in India these days. You have Hyundai, you have Samsung, you have so many of them. So, if you know Korean, if there are Korean nationals in India working in that company, you, with your knowledge of Korean, can go there and teach them English, teach them an Indian language, and at the same time, you can teach Indian employees the Korean language, so that everybody can gel together better. Or if any of the Indian nationals need to go to Korea for any work-related task, they at least have the basics of Korean where they'll be able to interact with people. So this is just one example that I'm giving you. It applies to a lot of other languages as well. Um, what else can you do? Oh yes, when we are talking about teaching, there are also a number of employment opportunities abroad where you can teach English as a second language, ESL. So if you know Japanese, for instance, you can go to Japan and you can be an ESL teacher. So, for that, again, because you have knowledge of Japanese, you will be a better teacher. You will be able to communicate better and help them navigate through English, which will be a foreign language for them because of your knowledge of Japanese. So, that is again something related to teaching. And we always have a number of openings and opportunities as content writers, content editors. Now, in our own case, in universities, especially distance education universities, we are always looking for people who can write study materials with the right qualifications, with the right experience. You can always be a content editor, a language editor, or a content writer. So these are, I think, I have covered maybe about 18 or 20 career paths that you can follow, because it all depends upon your aptitude, your attitude, your own inclination. Not everybody can be a teacher, not everybody can be a researcher, so, and not everybody can fit into the corporate world. So you need to decide what it is that interests you, what it is that you will be happy doing. And knowing a foreign language today in the 21st century is a weapon that you have. It is a weapon which will just slash all obstacles in front of you, and you will just be able to move ahead so fast that people who do not know a foreign language will be left far, far behind. And they will keep wishing that they had, had the foresight to enroll in such a program as you all have done. So I'd be very glad to answer any questions if any of you have any questions, because I did see people had raised hands. So Radha, if anybody wishes to ask something, I'd be very happy to answer if I can.
Ma'am, really very nice, wonderful, and informational session. An excellent session, ma'am. But I feel that this half an hour or 1 hour is not sufficient to know about these foreign languages and its importance in human life. So certainly we will have many more sessions as per your convenience
Yeah.
in the future also. Even I wish to say on this occasion one more information also to the audience. And
So there are already some comments here, Radha. Can I
yes,
answer
ma'am.
those first?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Today, the last service of Professor Malati at IGNU,
Yeah.
and university will never forget the hard work, dedication, achievements of you, ma'am. And you are the role model for us. Thank you for everything you have
Thank you,
contributed to
Radha.
the university and
Very
society.
kind words. Today
May
is
your
my
future as bright as your time here with us was. Wish you
Thank
the
you so
happy,
much.
healthy, active, and dynamic retirement life, ma'am. And now, may I request the audience to kindly interact with this.
There are some messages, Radha.
I will read
Someone,
one by one, ma'am.
yeah, someone has said that I'm trying to learn, but when I speak, they all said that Indian English is good. Now, see, nobody is saying don't speak Indian English. Now, when you mention learning a foreign language, are you talking about English? That is one thing that I'm not very clear from your comment. Who was it who commented? Let me just see, please. This was Nikhil Kumar Mishra. Yeah. So Nikhil says that when I start speaking, they say don't learn a foreign language. Indian English is good enough. Now Indian English is well good enough. We all speak Indian English. But like I said, knowing a foreign language I mean by say Russian, German, Spanish, French, Korean, Japanese, these kind of languages. And Mandarin these days, it's in very, very great demand. So these foreign languages, you are not going to be sitting with your friends and talking in Spanish or German, right? You will be using it in a specific situation. So Indian English is fine. Please continue to speak that way. But learning a foreign language is a completely different opportunity. Yes, and I am not sure, Nikhil, if I have answered your question. And Subhashish says, how IGNU will